What I want to try and do is make it as informal as possible. So it's not a case of just PowerPoint death, but like the sort of usual stuff. A lot of interaction between you guys and us guys, and feel free to ask questions. Now the way to ask questions, you probably saw on your sheets, there's a little method of asking questions using Slido. So on your mobile, if you were to log in under either slido.com and then just type in #SMECluster, you'll find that any questions that you might ask or any polls that we might run will appear on there. Now, it's very likely that we won't be asking questions to the presenters initially. We have a section then for basically a panel discussion, so I'll save a lot of the questions for that point. If you like some of the questions that have been asked, then like them, and they actually come to the surface, so we don't have to ask irrelevant questions. Okay? So, what we've got then is the 4th SMECluster event. We've been holding them since 2011. And you can sort of see the sort of technologies that we've been introducing. We introduced Industry 4.0 2 years ago, and of course now we're actually into the whole use of Industry 4.0. So before I sort of kick off, I'd like to sort of almost officially welcome Geraint Green from the Welsh European Funding Office, because a lot of the work that we've been doing has been supported by European funding. So as I said, I know that we've got the Brexit stuff, which is killing me, but at the end of the day, we are where we are. And then we will also have a nice talk from Arjen Zwegers, who is then the European Commissioner for the European projects, and he's usually in charge of everything that we do from the project's point of view. So I'd like to sort of welcome Geraint to the stage and pass over.
Thanks, Gash. So some PowerPoint death for you now, I'm afraid, but I'll try not to go on too long, because I'm conscious you want to hear from the people who actually do stuff rather than the people who sort of worry about if people are doing stuff. As Gash said, I mean, I wouldn't want to claim that we funded everything, but certainly, as you see from the slides, we're very, very much about EU funding and how we use that. And as my title explains, really, Head of Research and Innovation Branch in the Welsh European Funding Office. That means we deal with the regional funds, so that the money that people didn't think had made any impact. That's why they voted out. But I think they're realising now that the flags are everywhere, and they have funded businesses like Ash's and have made a lot of impact. Also, what we decided to do 3 or 4 years ago now is bring that together with Horizon 2020, which is the big framework programme that's run by the European Commission, and that's 70 billion big. And going to get bigger in the future as well, as you'll see from the slide later on. So one of the things that we've put a lot of effort in is bringing those two opportunities together to support activity that you're going to talk about today. So yes, the elephant in the room, Brexit. It's there. We're dealing with it in a very practical way. We're representing the Welsh Government's view, which is very pro-Europe, as I'm sure you know. Main point of this is that, as well as the sort of the looking forward stuff about the politics side of it, which is about that Europe will be important and will continue to be important, but also you'll hear about funding opportunities or get into discussions about funding opportunities today. And those funding opportunities are guaranteed. They're guaranteed by the UK Treasury, and that's a lifetime guarantee. So it's not about what happens before we exit. If you get your approval, the guarantee continues beyond that, up to, for example, in the regional funds, we've got schemes that can support businesses like yourselves, and they will run until 2023. That's not an issue. So there's no cliff edge there. So it's really important that is understood. And it's a key message to take away. Touch on this a little bit. So this is what we do in the unit, really bringing the two funds together. I'll talk about the key objective, Stairway to Excellence, in a bit more detail in a minute, because that's one of the areas where we bring the funds together. Obviously, we do events like this, and we try and engage. There was a bit of a cultural issue that we needed to address in Wales. That feeling that the next grant was just down the road in the local office, and people need to look a bit further and think about those competitive funding sources, and that does include the likes of Innovate UK and the UK money as well. We also there's a lot of support out there, it can be quite confusing, so again we wanted to make sure that we were using that and bringing that together. And the last point there, the last objective about, there's a lot of expertise, Gash being an example of that, and really just drawing on that and trying to share that best practice. So that's the kind of things that we get involved in. So this is the famous or infamous Stairway to Excellence. I'll just sort of quickly explain it. The orange bits are the sort of steps. It's a very simplified model. It's the idea that, you know, there's usually a journey involved, and this will be applied at the organisation level, you know, individual businesses or research organisations, but also to a certain extent the region as a whole. So, you know, you need that level of support when you're exploring a new idea. That could be low-level support like an innovation voucher, but also we're trying to encourage people to engage with international networks and attract that international funding that can come with that. So we recognise there's, you know, a journey there, there's steps on the way, and the support is needed all the way along that journey. You can enter at any point. It's not linear, but it's just a model that helps explain what we do. What we're also doing is we're making investments. So we've invested almost 300 million already into research and innovation, and that's those grey boxes represent that. That's the schemes that we supported. Obviously the Welsh Government schemes are very key to that. Smart innovation, smart company, smart expertise. People in the room can tell you more detail about that. It's also like the support from academia projects. So for example, the Institute you may have heard of, which is, you know, Swansea, Cardiff, Aberbank are coming together and giving you advice on advanced manufacturing. But also the support towards the top around engaging and networking as well. There's a slide on that in a minute. But we don't do this in isolation. It's not just about using the regional funds or making national investment. It's that much wider context of all the different ranges of activities that should be involved with. You know, Wales Business Fund, business angels, in some areas rural agenda is very relevant, and of course the UK opportunities. It's really about bringing all that together and ensuring that in Wales there's the right support to take you along that journey. I mentioned the innovation offer and sort of mini announcement, but one of the elements of smart innovation is procured consultancy support. So people who got experts, innovation specialists who are in the room today, and they will work with you and try and identify what your business needs. But there's also then extra days of support through consultancy. And again, not an expert on this, but the key message here is that we recognise that Industry 4.0 is an important driver, an important element. I need to move over. And so there's a tender that's out now, I believe, and that will be looking at bringing support in, so you can get your initial 3 days, and then up to another 5 days then to help you on that innovation journey. Now that's not necessarily about Industry 4.0, that could be about Industry 2.0 as well. So again, that's just recognising we see the opportunities and the importance of aligning our support to the agenda we're talking about today. In terms of the sort of top, so that we could argue is moving towards the bottom of that stairway, sort of exploring ideas of what we need in business. And this then is up towards the top of the stairway. So this is our grant scheme we have, and this is about international funding opportunities. This is the link to So you can see the bases on the top right, that's just the bases as well. So if you look at where it's asked, so one of the barriers to the right to 20 opportunities is they look to have partners, international partners. So collaboration barriers for some, collaboration across three states, 3 other countries. So there's a lot of benefits in this. A lot of the information events streaming their so and support travel, obviously key businesses here we don't understand the costs. So if you are thinking about this, or you've been discussing with industrial partners next time I go to this event, I can go to this network there. maybe thinking about developing a bit, well, that's what I'm using here. So come and talk to us today or get in touch probably, etc. If then you're starting on that journey, you're actually developing a bit, well, that's when the proposal development is done. If you really do already, got bid rating skills and capacity, then it could be just about polishing that bit, getting somebody in just to have a look at it and add that extra. So it's not bad. Yeah, exactly. Proposal development, yes. So again, we're there to support you in terms of taking on that. Almost easy. So is it worth doing this? This slide is actually outdated. Well, not the numbers of the map. There's more numbers to go, but this is just showing the kind of numbers we're dealing with. There's numbers involved. So these are collaborations between organisations and international organisations, and you can see there's Canada, USA, China, etc. on here. So this is supported through Horizon. If you think about this as the networks that these businesses, and there are many businesses as part of this, have now, and how they're turning that into business opportunities, it's not just about the funding, it's about the networks, it's about working with the best in Europe and the world to develop products and processes that are relevant to you as a business. And in terms of the cold hard cash around Horizon, you can see it down the bottom. But yeah, over 2,000 international collaborations, that is driving the right behaviour in Wales, and that will continue post-Brexit, which takes me to this. So the future, this is focusing in on Horizon. We know there's a lot of opportunities in the UK sphere as well, and that's very much equally part of our agenda. But I won't go into detail, but the very influential report which is influencing FP9, which is the next thing. They're talking about doubling the money, so they're talking about 120 billion, 140 billion in research and innovation that's going to be available. You can access that as a third country. In other words, if we are completely and utterly out, you can access it. So it's going to be there and it's going to be accessible. As you see by the quote from the UK down there, the ambition and the desire from a lot of key stakeholders in the UK, which is why the government is listening to them, is that we continue to access this and we have the same full access that we get now. So, don't ignore the 120, the 140 billion thing that is sitting there beyond the horizon, to use the cheesy line. There's calls now in Horizon if you're ready to play in that game, and we can give you information on that. But building the networks, building the momentum in this area, the opportunities are not going to go away. It's the right behaviour for the UK funding opportunities, it's the right behaviour for European opportunities and indeed beyond. There we go. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you, Geraint. Obviously, we've got a rushed agenda, so we'll try and plough through it as quick as possible. Hopefully, on the video link, Jared, have we got our link to Arian? So, Arian, are you there?
Hello.
Hey, Arian, the world is yours.
Hello, can I start?
Yep.
Okay, good morning. Thank you very much. So good morning also on my behalf. My name is Arian Zwegers. I'm from the European Commission. We're happy to address you, although it's by video link. We will try not to do that by PowerPoint, but we will have a few slides that we would like to show you. And we're happy that Geraint already talked about Horizon 2020 and already gave a very good introduction to what we are doing and how we support European industry. Now I would like to put that a bit in a bigger context and also have a look at it from a more policy point of view, and that is what we call Digitising European industry. So, if you look at the situation with respect to digitization in Europe, you see the following picture. Now on the left, you see different metrics that indicate to what extent enterprises in different member states use digital technologies. And the message you should take from this is that it is very diverse. There are countries on the right, such as Denmark and Finland and Norway, which are quite advanced in using digital technologies. And then there are other countries on the left, such as Bulgaria, Romania, and Latvia, which are much less advanced. In other words, there's a huge discrepancy between different member states in the European Union. And in total, only 1 out of 5 enterprises are highly digitized according to these methods that are used here. Now that is differences per country. If you look on the right part, you also see differences in terms of industry sector. Some sectors, like the ICT sector, travel agencies, tourism, are quite advanced. Other sectors, like construction, transport, but also manufacturing, are much less advanced. So you also see a very big difference between different sectors on a European level. And given that situation, we came up with what we call Digitising the European Industry Initiative. This picture shows roughly the 5 main parts of this initiative, with the European platform of national initiatives on digitizing industry in the center, and 4 parts around it. Now the center brings together different national initiatives. There are already 15 member states out of 28 which have a national initiative to promote digitization of their industries. Probably the most well-known one is the one in Germany, which is called Industry 4.0, also because they more or less started with the whole Industry 4.0 trend. If I go quickly to the diagram, on the right bottom, you see a focus on skills and jobs. It's not only a matter of technology, it's not only a matter of technology development and bringing it to industry, you also need to train the workforce to be able to use new technology. So for that, there are a number of measures put in place, such as traineeships, which is the digital opportunities scheme, education via digital technology, and in general also trying to inform industry and to make them work with industry associations, with labor associations, unions and so on, and pledge to train workers, and that is a big part of the Digital Skills and Jobs Coalition. On the bottom left, you see the regulatory framework. I will not spend a lot of time on that, but there are some regulations put in place, integrated with people, data among member states, cybersecurity, and so on. Top left, digital innovation hubs. I will spend some more time on the next slide, and then also on the technology side on the right top, which is put under partnerships and platforms. Now, going to the digital innovation hubs. What are they? Basically, these are centers around the competence center. And if one hub cannot serve the needs of a certain SME, they can always go to another one. In other words, what we're trying to do is create a network of different digital innovation hubs. So that was the hub, and this is the main instrument to bring digital technology vision point of view, you can make this diagram. This shows a bit how different technologies are used to deliver applications on the right. And you can argue about the lines. You can say it's a bidirectional, or this technology is a more basic technology than that one. But the point is, there are different technologies needed in applications on the right, such as autonomous driving, such as the smart factory, such as healthy aging. And on the European level, we want to reinforce the development of these different technologies. For that, we put in place a number of public-private partnerships. And the box and that are these public-private partnerships. So, for instance, microelectronics, there is the Excel joint undertaking, which develops new microelectronic technologies. Robotics, we have a robotics public-private partnership. That's the key point where different organizations in Europe come together, develop a roadmap for robotics technologies, and then implement it via Horizon 2020 funding that Gerda explained to you before. What is relevant here is the one on the right, smart factories. We also have a public-private partnership on that, which is the factory of the future public-private partnership. And Gash, with TANet, the sponsor of UK, is a very keen participant in that. He has done some projects in this area from FlexiNet, Adventure, Pigman, and now Digitising. I also see Alan sitting there. So that is a way for you to develop, to become part of the technology development. Not only the users, but also the technology development. End users give their requirements. End users test the technology developed in these projects. And this is, again, also explained, this is a mechanism developed in the future. And once we have developed, again, with the way we use instruments to bring technology to that in a local or regional environment are the innovation hubs and the partnerships and the projects coming from that. These are the main instruments for us to develop new technologies. If you have any questions, you can review it for some time, and also you can always contact us via email, or you can go to the website for more information. So with that, I would like to conclude. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And I'm sure, Arian, you'll be following it on the live feed. I know it's a bit sort of noisy at the moment. So thank you very much for that. What I want to sort of now do is quickly sort of whistle through some of the other sort of elements. We held a similar event to what we've done with Tata Steel in May time. So we were sort of completely chaotic at that time, so I expect to be just as chaotic this time. But we'll sort of see what we're trying to do. So it's the quick sort of catch up on Industry 4.0. We're going to get the provider's viewpoint in a few seconds, and then we're going to get the consumer's viewpoint, and more importantly, we're going to sort of see practical demonstrations taking place. So like I said, I'm not going to keep saying it, you heard it now. A lot of the outputs that we're doing are coming from the European projects. That's how we've managed to get the sort of funding to do what we've done. That's where we've got the Crema and Crema Manufacturers, a potential spin-out company, and plus we've got our partner projects here as well, C2Net, VFOS and Digicore, so that you will hear a lot of their sort of information in the afternoon. We sort of split it, so we've got like an industrial section in the morning, so just in case any of the industrialists have to disappear in the afternoon, I'd rather you didn't, but then we've got the technical stuff in the afternoon, so let's sort of fly through. So the people from the service provider point of view, we're going to hear from Andy in a few seconds from Siemens, and he'll go through his presentation. Andy from Cisco, thank you very much, and Russell from Balluff. And then we've also got David, who will scare the pants off us with cyber security. Hopefully you won't. From the industrial sort of point of view, we will hear from Tim introducing and of course from Arndt from the Airbus point of view, Mark from Ford, Roberto from the Fluid House, and then we will hear the use cases from Nico, but there's also use cases. So Industry 4.0, very quickly. We have Matthias in the room as well here, who is one of the key sort of people from DFKI that sort of looking at the real definition of Industry 4.0. That's all great, fantastic, but at the end of the day, Industry 4.0 is just a term as far as I'm concerned. So you don't have to be absolutely precise in how you implement it, whatever, and hopefully that should sort of come across. At the end of the day, it's about connections, it's about data, and it's about sort of bringing that across. And then again, like we sort of said from the security point of view, you've seen this slide quite a few times before. Of course, it's important to stress cybersecurity because, of course, that is the killer for Industry 4.0, but I'm sure we're going to sort of hear from Damon how you go about it. One of the slides I like using, it's something that I sort of wrote a paper on. We've got the sort of traditional sort of hierarchical view where we sort of go in from the end, we've got this, the engineering, we've got the sort of fitters and so on. What we're pushing now towards is literally connecting from shop floor to the top level. That, of course, involves things like middleware, but one of the biggest challenges is where are we going to get the skills. So you will see as one of our sort of demonstrations, we've got the STEM people here as well, and I think Mark might touch on it on his sort of side of it, where we're trying to encourage schools and colleges now to sort of bridge the gap between what they teach with micro PLCs and stuff like that to the real industrial stuff as well. In terms of the hype, main thing is, of course, it's really, we find it's the automotive industry that's going to drive a lot of the Industry 4.0, and of course it's all about getting more lean and etc., etc. And as far as I'm concerned, it's built on TPM, it's built on lean manufacturing, it's built on Six Sigma, so you've got to get the basics right before you start to even think about trying to implement Industry 4.0. Nothing new, been doing this sort of stuff for about 40, 50 years. At the end of the day, we forget what we did and then we relearn it. And at the end of the day, of course, now people, oh well, we've got Industry 4.0, let's go into Industry 4.5. And that's about sort of people and so on, and again, the Japanese are sort of leading that. But don't get confused, stick to Industry 4.0, get that right first, and then worry about the rest. And of course, you're hearing things about Bitcoin, you're hearing about, you know, the sort of new hype in security, maybe Damien will touch on it or whatever. But at the end of the day, the more people sort of talk about it, quite often it gets adopted and eventually gets to market. And again, so the key things, nothing beats good engineering practice. If you don't ask the right questions, it doesn't matter how much technology you got, you're not going to get responses. And don't just use technology for the sake of it. Just because these guys are selling you technology doesn't mean that you put it in. Okay? But if it's done sensibly and properly, it will make you big savings and it will make you money. And we need to plan for the future, of course, and that's what we sort of said about from the sort of future generations.